Hi, I'm Kimberly Q. Welcome to the Red Booth Show. On tonight's episode, I have an amazing dancer and choreographer, Aaron Cash. He's traveled the world with some really big acts, and he has some great stories for us.
Yeah, now I'm gonna be her backup dancer. Backup dancer.
I'll be like, dance!
Dance!
Dance
6,
for
7,
me!
8.
Dance for me! Just kidding.
That means he's bloody good. You're a rock star, man. You are a rock star. You guys never disappoint, and you always draw us in. That was dance-delicious, honestly.
So, hi, Aaron. How's it going?
Good, Kimberly. Thanks for having me.
Definitely. I'm happy to have you here because I think the dancing world is a pretty cool and interesting place.
It's certainly in the moment with all the different shows going on all over the world, Dancing with the Stars, So You Think You Can Dance. It's the sort of becoming more and more acceptable in the general populace.
That's right.
Yeah.
I think it's people are dancing a lot more in general.
And more educated about it too. The other day I was at the mechanic with a mate of mine. I was getting my bike fixed. And, there's these two guys and then they've been watching Dancing with the Stars or something like that. And these buffhead guys and they're all like, oh, yeah, but you see that one, I didn't like the way she kicked the leg. It wasn't quite as high as it should be. And I'm thinking to myself, where would you know about this? But it's wonderful that dance is becoming so popular.
And you were one of the judges on So You Think You Can Dance in Australia, right?
I was, yep, absolutely, which was a lot of fun. I was with Paula Abdul.
I love Paula Abdul.
Yes, and another gentleman called Jason Gilkison, who is the artistic director of Strictly Come Dancing, which is the English version of Dancing with the Stars. And then Shannon Holtzapfel, who dances with J-Lo at the moment, I believe, in Las Vegas. She's about to do her new show. So it was a really good panel, and we all got on famously. And we'd watch the show afterwards, we'd tape the show, and then we'd all go back to Paula's place, eat Thai food, get a little tipsy, and make fun of each other. So it was a really great experience.
Now, how long were you one of the judges on the show?
I was actually only a judge for 1 year. The show itself ran for 4 years. They did 3 years, and then they had a 3-year break, and then they brought it back, and we were the last year. And I hope to, I think it was the best year, but
of course it was.
Yeah, of course. And then they cancelled it after that, which was a shame. But that year was wonderful. A lot of great talent. Yeah.
So, do you think they might bring it back?
I don't think so. I don't think the ratings were strong enough. In Australia, just a little different sort of culture down there. I think people are very sports orientated. So, dancing, they like it, but I don't think they liked it enough. But we did a really great job. The production value was fantastic for the show. The kid that won it, Michael Demeski, is gone on to do amazing things himself. He's been working with Paula over here. So it's catapulted a lot of those young dancers. Actually, a lot of them have come over to America and are working here at the moment.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Would you say that there's a different sort of style of dancing that was preferred in Australia than here in the US?
No, look, we just reflect what's going on here. I think you've got a bigger population that supports dance. Australia's a lot smaller. Classical's very big there. We've got a major company, the Australian Ballet Company. You've got Sydney Dance Company. And then the commercial world is thriving, but the amount of work isn't as much as there is here. So that's why a lot of the kids come over here to try and progress their careers and work with people like J-Lo, Christina Aguilera, all these names that you can. Or if you want to do the ballet world, you go to New York or Broadway. There's just so much more opportunity here.
Yeah, and you have done some things like that. I know you were in a very big ballet as well.
I was in Twirl company years ago, and I danced with Baryshnikov during that time, who's just an amazing Russian ballet dancer, and Twirl. So yeah, I was lucky enough to have that experience. I worked with Cher for about 10 years.
Now that is cool.
Yeah, it was very cool. She's a really good lady. That was an amazing experience. I toured the world with her. So yeah, Cher and Tap Dogs, which was an Australian tap show. So I've had a bite at everything. I always say I'm like the junkyard dog of dance. It mightn't be that pretty, but I'll give it a good bite. I'll have a good go at it. Yeah, so I'm really grateful actually because my career's been so versatile.
So when did you first start dancing?
I was 8 years old. I was this fat kid on the south side of Brisbane, and my mother made me go to dancing, and I hated it. It'd be any excuse not to go to dancing. It'd be raining outside. I'd be like, it's too dangerous to go. We can't go. And she'll get your ass in the car. Like this, the shoe would come flying across the room. And like, okay, I was scared to death of my mother.
Why did she decide to put you in dance, I wonder,
Because
if you didn't want to do
I was
it?
this crazy kid that would dance to anything. I was 8 years old, and the Barbra Streisand music would be going, or there'd be a lawnmower outside. You know, I'd be doing interpretive dance to it. And she was just like, I think this kid's got to dance. And she grew up dancing. My cousin in Australia, he's passed now, but his name was Ross Coleman. He was a very famous Australian choreographer. So he was in Sydney, and she called him up and she said, look, I think he's got the bug. Where should I take him? So I went to this woman called Clarissa Hill, who was this tiny little woman, and I was this fat kid who, you know, I had these jazz flares on, these sort of spandexy things with a fat rolling over the side, and we had these things called jiffies. Were like, you know, you couldn't afford ballet shoes, so Kmart had jiffies for like, you know, $3, which were like these cheap slipper things, and I was the only boy, and that year I lasted a whole year, and then they had the concert, and I remember by that stage another boy had joined my class, and it was a defining moment for me because she was going to have everyone in the school in this one number. It was the closing number of it, the finale. It was called Love Boat. You know, the Love Boat. Exciting and new. Anyway, so here I am, this 8-year-old, and she's got us in electric blue Speedos. And then this buttercup
Oh my
yellow,
God!
oh yeah, terry toweling top with bric-a-brac around it. But halfway through the number, we're going to take our top off, and the boys are going to come out and do this duo. And I remember, I was fat. I was so scared to take the top off. But halfway through the number,
no.
it was dress rehearsal. It came time to take the top off, and I'm like, okay. And I just bit the bullet. I took it off, and all of a sudden, it was so cliche. It's like I went on stage, and the lights hit me, and I could smell the girl's hairspray. And I'm going on doing this really corny naff choreography, and you know, I'm going da 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 da, and it was like slow motion, and the fat's going blah 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 blah. I just remember going, I love this. I'm going to be doing this for the rest of my life. And it turns out I have been, and 2 hip replacements later, I'm still doing it.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, so then when did you go and work with the ballet company?
So 5 years ago, I was invited to work with a bunch of Cuban dancers, contemporary and classical dancers, to create a new show.
Right, because you're a choreographer.
Yeah, now I'm choreographing.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. No one wants to look at this old sort of broken down body anymore on stage. So now I get to point and tell people what to do. We created this show called Ballet Revolution, and it just took off. And again, found these amazing kids in Cuba. They're trained so well there. It's like this whole Russian hothouse system. They get them in there, and it's also a way to have a better life as an artist. They have a lot more freedom to sort of get out of the country and travel. Mm-hmm. So we've got about 21 dancers, 8-piece band, and it's been touring the world now. Like I said, 5 years. We did the Royal Command performance at Royal Albert Hall back in 2012.
Didn't you perform for the Queen, I heard?
My company did, yeah.
The Queen of England.
Yes, the Queen of England.
Yes.
Yeah, the guys did. So they performed 2 of my pieces,
Nice.
which is really exciting. So, and we've been at the Peacock Theatre, which is part of Sadler's Wells, 3 times on the West End. It's just been incredible.
You know, it's really interesting to me because I know a few dancers out in Las Vegas, and it's such an interesting world because people, they're like, how do you get into this? How do you make this into your steady job, right? I think it's even more of an oddity than like even acting or singing, because dancers, they are not like necessarily in the spotlight. Necessarily. Like on a ballet, you'll have, you know, something like that. But other than that, it's usually like a backup dancer, somebody in a music video.
I agree. Right? You spend your life training as hard as you can to support somebody else. Yes, there's a soloist and the superstar dancers, but the majority of people that are dancing are going to spend their time in a chorus or backing someone. And for the most part, I mean, I love dancers. This morning at breakfast, I'm creating another show at the moment, and I was meeting with my musical director, and he's like, I love working with dancers. And he's done a lot of X Factor in Australia and all these shows. And he said, you know, you get these kids that come in there and they've never done anything, had no training. 2 weeks later, they've been on the show, their Twitter blows up, and they're like, oh, I can't work now, I can't do this. He said, but the dancers are always there. They're working 12 hours a day. You lock them in a room, there's just this sweating, you know, busting their bodies. And then after they come out, they're like, oh, thank you so much for the experience. And I think that's why, and it's a finite career. you know, it's you can either go into teaching or maybe choreography afterwards, but a lot of people don't. They have to change mid-course because your body's going to give out, or you lose the desire. So it's kind of a courageous art form. That's why I mean, I grew up with it, so I'm more partial. But yeah, it's a very gratifying career too.
It's very challenging. That's why I think it's so impressive, you know, all of the different things that you've done already. And you stayed in dancing this whole time, you know.
Yeah,
so,
you know,
yeah.
it's like the red-headed freckled stepchild. I always sort of like, oh, I'm not a dancer. I try to be everything else, but it's been the one relationship that's sort of ever been faithful to me.
He says that, but you should have seen him before the show. I was like, hey, would you dance for me on the show maybe? And he's like, pops out of his chair, starts doing all these moves. You know, he's definitely.
I didn't do that,
yeah.
man. Wasn't that too many? I mean, I had a hip replacement 3 weeks ago, but it's
And he
not
was
up
still-
good.
it couldn't
I
never
could bust
tell.
a snake. Well, maybe we'll do a little bit later.
Yes, that's right. You have got to show me because I really suck at dancing.
Oh,
I
love
mean, I
that.
try.
Yeah,
What can I say?
it's all about having fun.
Yeah, really.
It's like, why do people love to dance at weddings? You know, you have a few drinks, you get the edge off, and you get out there, just let it go. That's what I love about dancing. You know, even people, it's this intrinsic thing. It's in our DNA. Even when you get into an elevator and music's playing, you find yourself bopping along. You want to have a sing. It lifts your vibration. Mm-hmm. You always feel better after you have a bit of a boogie, and as long as you don't judge yourself, who cares? Just have fun.
That's cool. I love that. Well, I wanted to ask you more about the show as well. For how did you first get chosen to be one of the judges?
Well, that's interesting. I think I was the last one to come in, and they locked everybody else in. And I got contacted by my agent months ago, and he said, "Oh, they're doing So You Think You Can Dance in Australia again. You interested in doing it?" I was like, "Yeah, throw my hat in the ring." And I never heard anything, so I thought.
So dancers have agents, everybody.
Yeah,
just
we
so
have
you know.
agents, just like everybody else. The dance agents, and yeah. Exactly. Yeah, he threw my hat in the ring, and I never heard anything. And then I was up with my wife in Monterey. She was at a convention. I was hanging out, being a lady of leisure, and and I get a call, and he said to me, he said, "Oh, where are you right now?" I'm like, "I'm in Monterey." He's like, "Oh, you need to be in LA tomorrow morning. I've set you up with a meeting with the producers of So You Think You Can Dance in Australia." I was like, "Oh, okay." So we hauled it back to LA, and then I went up there and I met with the woman. Ironically, as soon as she came through the door, she said, "You don't remember me, do you?" I was like, no. It turns out we worked together like 28 years ago or something, even longer actually, on Star Search, which was a talent competition
Oh,
in Australia.
I remember Star Search.
See, yeah.
I remember Star Search.
I was
okay.
on there, was like 16.
Yes, okay.
She was like one of the producers then. And it was like, oh my God. So
Yeah.
it's just crazy. Everything comes back around again. And she said, she said, "Well, what have you been doing with yourself?" And I told her everything I've done and blah, blah, blah. She said, "All right, look, I love you, but I've got 2 other partners. I've got to go back to Australia tomorrow. Let's Skype in a week." So we had a Skype meeting with the head of the network and then the other head of Shine Australia. And
Shine is the one that has all those shows,
they own
right?
all those in MasterChef in Australia. They own all those sorts of shows. They're a really great company to work with. I had a great time working with them. They treat you really well.
Nice.
But yeah, so then it seemed like forever. And the tragedy of it was too, which was kind of, my wife's dad passed. I waited for like a month, and then we were going through a hard time with my wife's dad, and he was very sick at the time. And then he passed, and 2 days later, and we had all the family over after the funeral, and we had all this, my wife's Filipino, all this Filipino food left there, and we invited the family back, and then we're sitting there, and we're all just feeling a little bit down, and then I get the phone call, and I see it's an Australian number, and it's my agent, and I'm like, oh, hang on, and I hadn't heard anything in weeks. So I'm like, I take the call, and first he says, "Oh, you got it. They love you." Like this. I was like, and then I sit right there in front of her. I was like, "Oh my God, I got it." They were like, "Oh!"
Oh,
So
that's awesome.
It was a really great thing to lift everybody's mood.
Right in the middle of a funeral.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Basically.
Well,
but no, I mean, not in a...
yeah, kind of. Well, basically, yeah.
Like, yeah, okay.
Yeah. So it was a
good.
nice little gift. So that's how that came about.
That's amazing. So now what are you doing next?
Now what I'm doing next is I'm creating a new show, which is a fusion of flamenco, Argentine tango, tap, and classical and contemporary. And I have live, it's going to be a cast of about 10, 11 dancers with 6 to 7 musicians on stage. I go to Spain in a couple of weeks to audition flamenco dancers. Then I come back, and then I go to Cuba, and I'm creating the show over about a month. with Cuban dancers, Spanish dancers, Argentinian dancers, and I've got a guy coming in from Australia who's a great tap dancer. So I'm really excited to start work on that project, and hopefully, we'll premiere it next year in Europe.
Oh, fantastic!
Yeah, which would be good. So that's sort of keeping that, and then recovering from my
Your hip replacement.
Shut up.
You seem very well recovered already.
Well, I'm doing all
say.
right. This is a lifetime of bumping and grinding.
Yeah.
All the pole dancing. But we won't talk about that part of the career.
So I wanted to ask your advice for other people who want to get into dancing.
Okay, if you want to get into dancing, obviously start with class. Find a genre that you like, because there's so many different forms of dance. There's ballroom, there's classical, there's contemporary, there's jazz, hip hop. I mean, and what's beautiful now is all these styles are affecting everything. That's why you see on all these shows, they have these fusion of things, and that's what I find most interesting with dancing. So find a dance studio, your local dance studio, go down and start taking classes. And it's like anything, if it's not the right fit, find another studio. Then if you get good enough, then maybe move out to Los Angeles, or go to New York or Chicago, start auditioning for some of the bigger full-time programs. And usually that's a nice way. Like the Edge Scholarship here was one that people used to go to. The Edge is a big dance studio
In Los
here.
Angeles?
In Los
Okay.
Angeles. Millennium is another place. Performing Arts Center also is out here. Obviously you go to New York, used to be Broadway dance, steps. I'm not sure what's there. Or, you can go and study with Martha Graham, Alvin Ailey. It just depends on where you are and what style of dance you want to do. If you want to be a Vegas showgirl, you go to Vegas and you start auditioning for Vegas shows. But normally that's sort of how you get into it. And if you go through a full-time program, you get a sense of, and they'll give you all different styles, and you'll get a sense of where you want to be. Classical is really, you might find if you have a child that is really good at classical, New York's a place to go primarily, or you can San Francisco, but SAB, there's a lot of great schools out there, and usually with that they have to start quite young. But if you've got the desire and the passion, you've got a little bit of talent, it's hard work more than anything else. And that drive. And then after you come out of school, most likely it's networking. You start, your friends know, I've heard about this audition, or there's an audition for an agency now. A lot of the agencies hold auditions. You go, you dance.
I was just going to ask you about that. How do people get
Exactly.
agents?
Yeah, basically that's what happens. They'll have auditions, and then you go, you audition for your agent, take your headshot along, and then just the ball starts rolling. But the main thing is get in class, become as good as you can be.
Practice makes perfect, everyone.
Practice, exactly, and just enjoy it. And once it starts becoming a chore, then move on, find something else that tickles your fancy.
And have you ever done anything like music videos or anything
heaps
like
of music videos with Cher. Like I said, with Dance with Cher.
That's right.
It's funny, Alanis Morissette, like the first one
Oh,
video,
Alanis
years
Morissette.
ago. But before she broke, before Jagged Little Pill, I remember, and I didn't even realise it, because she was this young girl, and I got called last minute. It was 4 guys, and we were dancing downtown LA on cement, and this young girl coming up. And years later, and I'd forgotten about the job, but one of those TV shows was on, what they did before or something like that, and they had this film clip of her, and I'm looking at this, this was Alanis Morissette before she broke, sort of thing. And I'm looking at these 4 guys dancing, like, wow, those guys look familiar. Oh, there's Bill. Oh, there's... And I'm like, oh my God, that's me. And I forgot about the gig completely. So yeah, I've done a lot of music videos on my time, did lots of different people.
What's Cher like?
Amazing. We're all... look, she's fantastic.
10 years is a long time.
10 years is a long time. I still have a great relationship with her. I saw her perform, I think, 2 years ago at the Duck Pond, not the Duck Pond, it's the Anaheim Center.
Right.
And she was fabulous, still amazing. Took me backstage before the show. We did the prayer circle, had a hug and a kiss, and she was just great. I have a lot of time for that. She's been very good to me over the years. She was incredible. She was great to work with. Twyla was great to work with. It's been a lot of really good moments.
How exciting.
Actually, Cher, when I first auditioned for her, I'd been in Australia, and I was back there. Things weren't working out for me here, and I'd been back for a month. And then Kenny Ortega called me and said, what are you doing down there? I'm like, I'm just trying to get my life together. And he's like, it's a pity you're not here, I'm directing and choreographing Cher's next tour. She hasn't toured in like 15 years. It's like, oh, really? I've told
Was this the Life After Love tour thing?
This was Heart of Stone was the first one that she came back, because she did one earlier, like maybe was it like the end of the 70s or something like that. She had this big, massive high heel shoe. She used to slide down, and then she didn't tour for a long time. She did movies. She became an Academy Award-winning actress, and so Kenny was planning this tour, a massive tour again, reintroduce her to the touring market. And I was in Australia, and I said, "Oh, I can't do it. Sorry." So this was on a Wednesday, and
Why would you say no?
well, I wasn't there. The audition was on Thursday.
It's in another
Wednesday. So, I'm like, I don't think I can. And I had no
okay.
money. I was broke.
Logistics.
So I get off the
Right,
phone,
got
and my
it.
flatmate, my roommate's like, "What are you, nuts? Get back on the phone and say, hey, Kenny, do I have the job?" So I called him back. I said, "Look, mate, do I have the job?" He said, "Look, as far as I'm concerned, you have the job, but she has final say on everybody." So I was like, all right. So I called my mum up, and I borrowed some money from my mum's boyfriend. I said I had the job. I said, "I'll pay you back, once we start." So he lent me the money, and that was in the days before you could get the internet, and I had to get a travel agent to book the ticket. So it's long story short. I was dressing on 42nd Street. I went in to the matinee show. Told them I've got to go back to the States on Thursday, and then so I did my dressing show. I taught this guy, this replacement dresser, my act, and then in between the shows, I also danced at a nightclub in the Hilton, Juliana's back then, and so I taught one of the dancers in 42nd Street my dance show in between the break. Did the night show. Then did my gig at Juliana's, went home, packed the bag, got up early the next morning, went to the bank, took the money out, went to the travel agent, got the money, came back home, had my roommate take me to the airport, got on the plane, because in Australia, you leave on Thursday, you get into America on Thursday, had my girlfriend at the time.
It's like no time has passed.
No time's passed.
That's awesome.
And then she took me to the audition was out in Malibu. And I'm changing the car, getting ready like this. It goes straight out there, and there were like 350 people out there. I was like, oh my God. So we all learn the combination. The girls go first, groups of 4. The boys go next, groups of 4. And I remember just thinking, I've got to get this job. It was like $2,000 for the ticket. I'd never owed that much money. I was 19. I was like, oh God, I hope I get this job. And I danced my butt off. I danced my tail off. I had a great audition. And we all did it once through. They said, "Okay, thanks very much. Go outside. We're going to make the first cut." So we come back in after 45 minutes. All right, could these people step forward? Michelle, Rudy, Troy Burgess, Aaron Cash. "Thank you very much. You got the job. You can sit down now and watch everybody else audition." I was like, great. So I got to sit there. Yeah, it was just an incredible experience. And that was the sort of start of a 10-year odyssey working with her all over the world. So many different things. And it was amazing.
What a fun job that must be. It's really a fun job.
I'll tell you what, we did the Adelaide Grand Prix years, and it was like 48 degrees or something. It was so hot in summer. And she's wearing this Bob Mackie furs, just melting. And the show was like 50 minutes. Cut down to about 15. She was like, I got it because it was all outside.
No, it's too hot.
It's too hot.
Yeah.
She was, yes, just a lot of crazy experiences like that.
Well, by the way, I just wanted you to know this show airs not only in Southern California, but also in Las Vegas.
Oh, fantastic.
So there's a ton of dancers out in Las Vegas, too. So hi, everybody.
Hi,
out
guys.
there.
My people.
That's right. So if anybody wants to find out about you online or follow up on what you're doing, where should they go?
Oh, where should they go? That's a good... Ballet Revolution has got a website. My website is down at the moment, but so it's no good. But yeah, that's usually, or Twitter. Follow me on Twitter or Instagram. That's usually
what's your
or
Twitter?
Facebook. Aaron Cash, Twitter, easy.
Cool. Simple.
Instagram, same thing.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm sure they'll be able to find you, Aaron Cash. And I really appreciate you coming on the show.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. It's been a lot of fun.
Yes, thank you so much. It's great to have another Aussie in the booth.
That's right. Now we're going to do a little booth ballet.
That's right. You were going to show me some moves,
Well,
right?
we can do it in the booth.
Well, okay.
We'll just snake it. Come on.
No, I don't know.
Come on.
I'm not doing it right. I'm doing it wrong.
Oh, no. I like it. There it is. It's all the attitude.
I can't do it.
Nice. Good attitude. That's all you need.
Okay, just stop me.
You got the gig.
You taught me the snake. Nice. Thank you so much for coming today.
Thanks a lot.
All right, cool. Thanks for watching choreographer and dancer Aaron Cash on
The Red Booth.